Hi, I'm making this video because, I don't know, I'm just bored and it's the summer. I wanted to document my time and my life going through this process of getting a lung transplant. I just completed my last test out of an array of tests that took a really long time to do. Like, it's one of those things where it could have been done in like a couple days, but for some reason it was like spread out through months and months. It was just like x-rays, ultrasounds, blood work, walking tests. It's 2019. In 2016, that was the time my doctors first told me that lung transplant might be a good option. I was actually asleep when my doctor was telling my mom that I should possibly think about having a lung transplant, which is a huge decision to make, and it's scary. And I was asleep, but I was able to hear everything that they were saying, so I heard this, and I was having like this weird nightmare that went along with it, because it's obviously really scary news to be hearing, and like my subconscious was making like this terrible dream. But anyways, I just remember crying that day and being really sad, but that's when I had like probably 45% lung function. So now I have like 25% lung function, which is why I have decided that I definitely want to get listed really soon. I started the process, this really slow process, because I've been like doubtful if I wanted to yet. Probably, I think it was like November. March 5th, 2019, I had my first lung transplant evaluation at UCLA, where they just evaluated me and like read my case basically and decided if they wanted to even like pursue me, which is really sort of weird. Like, part of the process is like the very first part of the process is basically going to a hospital with a lung transplant team, which was UCLA for me. It's almost like an audition, like you're like showing yourself as a case for them to possibly take, because they can say no to you and you don't want them to say no to you, so you're almost like just giving an audition for your health, which is really weird. March 28th, my actual tests began because they approved me to take on, and I did an echocardiogram to check my heart, and that came out normal. Then I got a gastric emptying study. What that meant was, first they gave me food. In my case, it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that they had put like radioactive energy onto. If someone like really knows the exact thing that this is, please tell me, but they put radioactive stuff onto the sandwich and I ate it. And then they had this scan, x-ray scan, over me, and I sat there for 90 minutes, and they stopped and took x-rays every, I don't know, time slot, 15 minutes or so, to see, they could see the radioactive like energy in me and how fast it was going through my digestive system, to see how slow my digestive system moves actually. And I did this test a while ago, and I got diagnosed with basically like irritable bowel syndrome, or just slow gastric emptying. And then when I did it again, March 28th, it was better, but I just don't think it was normal. I'm sorry if the video is getting darker and darker. It's because the sun's going down, most likely, and I'm stupid. This is the time I decided to do this. Then on April 8th, I got an ultrasound that checked on my liver. I don't even know what that really means or why they needed to specifically check on my liver. Sorry for not being very smart. But yeah, I got CT scans and ultrasounds. So then I went to see my doctor again on May 16th. This was just like to see him and talk to him about the idea of definitely getting on the transplant list, which I was still actually unsure about then. It's just really, the idea of it is very scary because not only is it a life-changing procedure, but for me specifically, I have an infection that makes this whole process a lot more difficult and a little bit challenging, and the chance of like whether it will definitely work is lower. So that's why I've been very iffy about this whole thing. But anyways, so that's when he said that I should probably think about getting my wisdom teeth out before getting on the list, which makes sense. So I have to do that. And I also had to get some vaccines. I got my hepatitis B vaccine. I had to get the second one. And I think I have to get my HPV vaccines. But then I went to my doctor's appointment at Children's, which was probably like a week ago. And there I did a 6-minute walk test, which was like, I'm not sure how many feet I was walking back and forth, but I just had to walk back and forth. It was probably about like 25 feet or something for 6 minutes. And obviously I'm walking slowly because it's hard for me to walk. And I was on 8 liters of oxygen, I think. So that was that. There's not really like a, did you pass any of these tests? It's just to see like where you are. And then I had to do a blood gas test, see how my lungs are working with exhaling oxygen, because obviously you inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, and usually with people with CF lungs, they have too much carbon dioxide in their lungs because they're not inhaling enough oxygen. I think that's why. I don't, maybe that's wrong. Another test I did was a PFT test, which is basically just to measure my lung function. And I just had, there's, to find out my FEV1, which is basically how they measure your lung function. I had to just do a test where I breathed in and then exhaled as fast and as forcefully as I possibly could for as long as I could. And I got, my score was 25% lung function, which kind of sucked because last time it was like 30% lung function, but no, it was 28. But my doctor said at this point, anywhere in the 20s is like, makes sense for me. Then I saw my transplant coordinator a couple days ago, and we decided that I was definitely going to get on the list, but they just have to get those results of that test, and Children's Hospital just has to send UCLA the information, and I'll probably get on the list next week, which is crazy. That's how I feel about that. All of these tests make up my lung allocation score, which is a score from 0 to 100 of basically how sick you are, how soon you need the transplant. I'm back. It's the next day, obviously. I have some makeup on. My eye bags are popping. Yesterday I was talking about the lung allocation score and where I will be placed. The average lung allocation score, like I said, is like 35. And that's where my lung transplant coordinators think that I will be. But my pulmonary doctors at Children's think that I'll be around 45, so we'll find out. Once I get placed on the list, I'll have to stay at least 3 hours in radius to UCLA, which kind of sucks because it's summer, I want to travel, but I'm not really able to travel anyways, so it doesn't suck that bad. Maybe I'll have like a little road trip with my friends, we'll go 3 hours away and be like, why I decided to get on the list is because it took a long time for me to decide that. Like I said, earlier. I was first introduced to the idea by my doctor in around 2016, and at that point I was like, no. I don't know what she's talking about, but that's not going to happen. I was in a lot of denial, and I was 16, I wasn't like, when you're 16 you kind of think you're invincible, and that's how I felt. I wasn't going to be told that I needed something to save my life, so I completely denied that idea. But it was still always in the back of my head. And then as I got sicker, I noticed, oh, I can't walk up flights of stairs anymore. Oh, I can't get up these hills. Oh, I'm not really mobile anymore, and it's making my life very difficult. So this is probably the best option. And not only do you become less mobile, but it's just hard to breathe. It's hard to wake up and not be able to breathe. It's hard to get through your treatments because of your coughing fits. Your coughing fits get worse, they get harder. Just going out is harder. Everything's harder. And everything that I want to do is becoming harder. So it's really the time when this would be the best thing to do. Another factor is this, with this infection that I have, they think that basically the infection is like a ticking time bomb, and it's really going to come back, even though I've been on IV antibiotics for it for almost 2 years, which is insane. Not a lot of people will say I have to do that. Very, very few. And I'm one of them. I'm also so tired of that. And after transplant, I only have to do it for like 6 more months, and then I could like fully stop, which would be amazing. But anyways, I think the infection will eventually come back because they think it's still in there, but it's just suppressed enough. So they really want me to transplant me now, because if it comes back, the transplant could become really difficult, if not impossible. So yeah, that is the reason why I decided that it's time to do this, even though I'm scared. I wanted to talk more about the lung allocation score, because I don't think I was clear in what I was saying before. Basically, the score is a number from 0 to 100, 100 being top priority, and 0 being least priority. Basically, it's sort of like you want it to be, your number to be higher, because that means that most likely you're going to get the transplant faster, but at the same time it also means you're more sick. So it's sort of like you want that, but you also don't want to be more sick. So double-edged sword, I don't know. The things that determine the lung allocation score isn't everything, because it's not the only factor in deciding how soon you'll get your transplant. Another factor is your blood type. If you have a rare blood type, it's more rare for you to have a match with your donor. Another factor is like your build, your chest size, like how small you are. Most donors, I think, are usually bigger, so it is harder if you are smaller. Like, I'm small, but I also have a sort of wide chest, so I don't think it'll be that much of an issue. I also heard some, like, doctors told me the weirdest thing that I don't know why, but I just found very, very fascinating. That people with CF, their lungs are getting actually bigger because of the scarring. So their lungs are more scarred and more mucousy and, disease, so they're actually getting bigger. Which I found, like, in my mind, that was like, what? Because when you have CF, it feels like your lungs are getting smaller. It often feels like my lungs are like very, very small and can only open like a very, very small amount. So to hear that they're actually getting bigger was really baffling to me. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, that's why. Anyways, yeah, so your blood type, your build, and your lung allocation score, those things really matter. Because if they find a match and there's 2 people who have roughly the same exact allocation score. Usually no one has the same exact allocation score because it's not like 45, it's like 45 point blah blah blah. So if they're looking at all the people who are on the top priority for the lung transplant list, but they're all the wrong blood type, it'll trickle down to the next people. When those people all have the wrong size for it, it'll trickle down. So, that's basically it. I just wanted to tell you guys all the things that I had to do before getting placed on the list and like what makes up the lung allocation score, which was all those tests that I was explaining. Okay, that's the end of this video. Bye!